Hello, and welcome once again to another fun-filled heretical episode of Inside the World of MACK'S Headroom. Today I want to talk about a conversation actually I had with a friend of mine, which posed a very unique, I think, angle on the whole Jeffery Epstein and Ghislaine, or I'm going to call her Madam Maxwell because I can't pronounce her name. But anyway, the Jeffery Epstein, Madam Maxwell narrative that the whole country is so interested in, and for good reason. After talking to my buddy, he posed a very interesting proposition that I've never heard shared before, and there's good reason because my friend's kind of a unique person, which I'll explain in a second, in as stealth as a manner as I can. But it's an interesting thing, and I just wanted to share it. And maybe we could play around with the comments section below and see what kind of questions this little unique twist to the Madam Maxwell, particularly saga, what it brings forth. And if anybody thinks it's a cool idea, or even it's a stupid idea, it's okay. It's not really mine. So, but anyway, I think it is very noteworthy. So let me tell you about my buddy first. I've mentioned him before. He's like one of two of my very dearest friends. We're about close to the same age. And he's just an incredibly brilliant guy. Reads several books a week. He's just really a cool guy. But one thing that also kind of makes him rather interesting, although I really can't say specifically because he's very private about this, but he was at one time an employee for the Department of Defense, and in the covert operative kind of capacity, and I believe his specialty was actually in interrogation. I also believe that he had some sort of covert job in the post-Vietnam War in uniform. But this is a guy who really knows a lot about, I don't know what you want to call it, the underbelly of what goes on, at least in the Department of Defense. So I was chatting with him, and he's such an interesting guy. I mean, he's so attuned to the whole ways that the world and everything can spy on you and stuff. He doesn't have internet in his house. He goes to a public place to use it when he does. He's just he's not a guy who brags about stuff. He's not a guy who, because of his background, likes to, flash it around. Matter of fact, I think I'm probably one of the only people who really knows about it. Otherwise, you'd think he's just a normal guy, So we were chatting, and the reason I'm kind of trying to describe him to you is, from my opinion, is he kind of stays away from making comments about things that he may have some knowledge about inside, but is looming in the in the social media. So it's I'm always the one that's bringing these things up, and then he'll make some commentary well, I didn't really know about this or that, but then when he starts talking, he'll pose these other sort of angles on things from his experience that's very, very interesting. So that gets us back to Madam Maxwell. I was talking with my pal, and I was telling him about this thing, and he says he knows all about the Jeffery Epstein thing. But I was trying to just explain to him, this whole ruling class thing that if anybody watches my station knows, I'm very into talking about and sort of trying to, extinguish in some ways. But anyway, I'm telling him about the Maxwell and stuff, and I'm saying, damn, man, I mean, can you believe that this chick has avoided, capture? Who's protecting her? How can she, just kind of dance away and be hidden away with Les Wexner or whatever the hell his name is in another one of his $77 million mansions, and the CIA or the FBI can't find out where the fuck she is? I don't get that, unless it's what everybody else believes is that she's being protected for some reason, okay? Well, that was kind of the dialogue I was having with him. And he just, he'd never probably thought about this before, I don't think, because he's not into these sort of, conspiracy things. But anyway, he said to me, Well, Mac, I'm sort of being sarcastic, but he said, what makes you think that she's not captured already? I said, well, because the news says so, and because Sean Atwood doesn't have a lead on it yet, and because, and he says, big fucking deal, He says, I don't know, when I think about it, the thing that makes most sense to me is she's already captured, and they're pumping her for information. Somebody is. He doesn't know the situation well enough to know, because everybody says, oh, she's associated with the Mossad, and, Jeff Epstein was with her too, the Israeli undercover guys or whatever. And, but his point to me was, from his experience, he would say they've had her for months and could be creating a conspiracy that is like, why is she being protected by the upper class when really whoever it is that wants her the most already has her and is pumping her for information, and then may funnel her back into the normal, media, I suppose you could say, as under some guise, like she turned state evidence. But his point is that whenever you get somebody and you want to interrogate them, what you're really most interested in is what's at the top. So, everybody thinks like that Madam Maxwell is the top or Epstein was the top, but that's bullshit. We all know that. They're just the pimps and madams for other higher people. So, whatever it is, I don't know what organization would have her, but his theory made a shitload of sense to me. Like, how could somebody evade, the FBI and the CIA and Scotland Yard and all this stuff for, that's another thing he said. He says, Scotland Yard isn't a bunch of pussies, in mod clothes. You know what I mean? He said, Scotland Yard's a tough place. And he said, you don't think that they might even have her, because she has a lot of information that would be pertaining to, the country, the UK, So while he has no idea, who it is that has her or anything like that, he was very settled with the notion that she couldn't escape for this long. And so this whole thing of how she's being protected, he doesn't think she's being protected. He thinks she's being, like, perhaps interrogated very aggressively to find out has she leaked anything, or perhaps people, maybe some other counterintelligence group has captured her so they could use her as a pawn against Prince Andrew and Britain. I mean, you can get all crazy about this, but the bottom line, that way you gets into conspiracy theories. But what my friend mentioned, I don't think is really that offbeat. Look what they did to Julian Assange. Oh my God. That was like the weirdest thing in the world. He goes to get political asylum, and yet he ends up living like in a jail. That's like he looked. They were showing videotapes of him. It was horrible. I mean, so when you want to get somebody or you want to keep somebody, it happens. It happens. Who knows? He didn't say this, but who knows? She could be dead. And it'll just be a big mystery, and they'll make us believe that she just disappeared and, somebody must have murdered her, and who knows, just like Jeff Epstein, I don't know if he hung himself or not, By the way, as long as I'm on the subject, I'm just going to merge this into the tape. I figured out exactly how Jeff Epstein was murdered. And as a matter of fact, I was going to demonstrate it on YouTube because I made a mock gizmo and saw how efficacious it was. And it was unbelievable, and it just explains how he was murdered. And that is all I did. I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but all I did was I took a drill with a portable battery, and I took a piece of wire, like nylon-coated wire, and I put it into the chuck of the drill, and I just closed it real tight, and I put it around 2 rolls of toilet paper, and I just pushed the button of the drill, and it went, meow, and like just crushed the toilet paper. So obviously you could see that Jeff Epstein was probably murdered by some kind of sophisticated gizmo. And not that mine was so sophisticated. I was just trying to prove a point to myself. Because when you take a look at Jeff Epstein's injuries, everybody agrees that it wasn't by hanging because of not the hyoid bone or that bullshit, but just because of the ligature was totally different than the wound that was left on his neck. So I just started thinking, well, how could that be done, quickly? What if it was done by the CIA? Wouldn't they have a machine like that might do that, like a strangulation machine? Why? And so I just started putzing around with crazy ideas in my head, heretical knucklehead that I am, and I I made this gizmo in like 5 minutes. I just took a piece of an old dog leash and just put it in the chuck, put it around 2 rolls of toilet paper, not toilet paper, but, paper towel. It was like crushed in seconds. So I just wanted to throw that in. That's how I think Jeff Epstein was murdered. Maybe not with the same device, but it sure makes sense that he didn't hang himself. So I thought I'd throw that in. But getting back to Madam Maxwell, I think somebody's got her. I agree with my pal. Someone's got her already. How could she evade capture? And there's so many people that, probably want her anyway. I mean, I can't, if she is a member of Mossad, you think those fuckers want her roaming around lollygagging? No, they'll swoop down in a helicopter and scoop her ass up so fast she wouldn't know what's happening. And then they might interrogate her. Who knows? But I don't think my friend's idea was such a conspiracy theory that she's already in custody. And the conspiracy is it's secret. And they're pumping what they want out of her. They may not be protecting her. I don't think they give a shit about her like they gave a shit about Jeff Epstein. It just was convenient to murder Epstein. And now they got to figure out what to do with her. And I think I'm going to stop because if I talk much longer, I'm going to get into more conspiracies. And I don't think what I'm presenting to you is such a conspiracy. It's a logical thought. And I'm just very surprised as to why the media hasn't picked it up yet. So why don't you leave your comments below if you have any ideas. Maybe who has her, why they would have her, instead of falling to this belief that, the ruling class is protecting themselves. They may be. And they may be the ones that have her. But she's caught. That's the point. Somebody's got her. She's not, I don't think she's in Les Wessner's, 50th, $11 million apartment that he's got squandered away somewhere in Africa. I just don't really believe that. Someone's got her ass. And that's good. But let's start thinking that way and we'll see what happens. Anyway, thanks for listening. Yep, this is kind of short for me, 12 minutes. So thanks again. Have a nice Sunday. And once again, you know what? I did that backwards. Let's try it again. Thanks again for listening. And this has been another episode of Inside the World of Max Headroom. Yeah, there you go. Bye.